Hello, dear world. I had my COVID-19 test today, and I've been sick for about 20 days, but it seems like it's getting worse. And today, as the day goes on, it seems to be getting worse and worse. So I wanted to read this to you before, and just in case, this is my last chance to have good air to read it with. This is a book of poems. It's one long poem called Little Million Doors. It's an elegy that I wrote for my father after he died. And it starts to sound like, and what I started hearing in my head in the months after his death was I started hearing this voice speaking in my head. And I started to see this as, or hear this as, the voice of someone who has just passed away. And this is their experience of death, of having just died, and they don't quite understand what they're seeing yet. It begins with the moment of his death, and it goes through in a kind of boneless, ghostly grammar, one long sentence, one long exhalation. I'll try to read it as well as I can. It only takes about 18 minutes to hear the whole thing, so you can listen if you want. It's probably too long for most people. But this is Little Million Doors for my father. And I also have autism, and I think this might be part of it. If I'm not hearing the voice of a ghost, I might be having a kind of psychic breakdown. I'm hearing the voice of the psychic rupture as I was having really terrible grief symptoms, amnesia, and sort of disembodiment, feelings of disembodiment. And then I started hearing the voice that became this poem. I wanted to read this one time, and I think that this poem exists in sound more than on the page, and so I've wanted to record this. And since I had my COVID-19 test today, I'm afraid I may not, even tomorrow morning, I may not be able to do this anymore. This is Little Million Doors. My skin felt heavy. I left it draped over a chair to walk out. Across the wet colors of May, I could see time glow. I could see the ancestors of trees. Let me ask you this. What name was I? Each house in a street of houses. My hands in the trees for bells. I promised to what purpose was my story? The ripple of snake skins or sounds long in the curtains. Long days of rain. A phone was ringing high over the steps, the wet gables of the world immortal. It was our souls streaming into quiets of wood grain toward what plane of convergence? For years I could not answer. A music in pain, the undying will, undying in the dying grass. And the road was all of bones, and all and only I was on it, walking to where at noon forever a voice far and thinly, was it my voice, filling up the canyons, the boxes of its meanings? I say was, what I mean is will be. I tried to peel away the names. I said, who is God? And watched the sound ripple into green. I tried to pray, said, take me to the center. Spread thin, I was everywhere. If cities are nothing, a single bucket of night is enough. My clothes grew tired, an end of day. I begged this air to 100 me. As many genders as bees in the lavender field, my lovely hero, what nothing like sleep did the water. Where have you gone, little murder? Find me here. Did I grow a shadow in this? Did I belong to table and to roses? A woman leads the skeleton of a dog. Her mouth floats by, praying beneath her eyes, where time gusts against the slow hills. And where am I in this? The hills are listening. See me, I almost shout, or I do shout. I must be like green day stars, a few washed out in the low heaven. I am the heaven that touches to shoelaces, to steps, the white lamps still lit at noon. I enter the museum to color square spaces of paint with my absence. Is this memory I'm watching? A girl in red wool leads the sheep, a long line of them over snow, and they follow her. Small as she is this my country? An empty inside the animals, larger than the falling, in the falling of the snow. The grass is gold and white. The dead lawn of the courthouse, the moon shaking the statues are white. The moon, radiant, throwing its rings out, pins the shadows of animals, of dying animals, old coats cut from the sleep of mares. The elms, slow poplars, gather the dark to spin it out against a grave in the moon's fire. I stood up from the pit. From the pits, the air was busy with us. All of us, it was faith. Only in gravity, held in agreement, one swallow flew up from zero, a signal fire, seen one mountain to the next. Carried by deer, a living shadow on the wall, I hear the valley hurry over to relive weathers of other lives. I'm born, I bear the cry, each animal, its word in breaking 7 nested futures. Who were we? Heaps of bones making love. I storm in shells of color, past pouring out from if threads of inert fire trace the boundaries of a wheel. Are these the shapes I loved? I study the faces from inside them, in trains looking out over fountains, from inside them the ivy, over bridges is this happiness, from inside them the clover, in the statues, in the shaking of butterflies, a tattoo, my daughter's name in the garden. I remember my daughter in the high collective well of summer is necessary for something. To watch stars begin, a gust of stars between the skull and skin and moving out to find a rib. Is it mine to lie beside 100 years, this wide, reflected face of water? Is there no shape for grief? The now, what if? Petals blow the stems. I remember daisies, and a word against the west wall of the house. I was murdered. I was stillborn. I died old. I tried on these robes in light reposed over patterns of water, surrounded then traced, all futures brimmed under grapevines, the wind a flower. I relived my death or someone's. Here language opens at the wound. Here the house of effects, its procession of candles inside the body. One long day, the body. A lantern, how to say it. Lantern in a window is the body, hundreds of pains into sorrow, moving beneath the river road. I've tried to hold to anger. A snow delineates the thin winter branches, but I'm a tree of no branches, tree of no tree. If I let it, the snow, throwing me down in pieces tiny with it, to drifts, all of me, and blue. To lie up long underside bridges, to feel the life pass over in wheels, in warmly, the stories, each heart's dark mouth saying yes and saying yes, to pretend to fall, to pretend to be afraid, whimper, give me bone to shelter the weight of it even, a rope the last yellow night stirs the bluebells, this hill I would carry my heart on a pillow, yes, to lie down. I would carry my body all the way back. I would carry the eyes of it. I would carry the hands of it. I would wash the skin. I would bear the feet. I would draw the blood out long and shine it. And there are too many moons. Each of us, through prisms, echo the brightly. Against columns, the columns, a bodiless animal eating the air above tracks where no train is, little million doors, and darkly from here the future looks like many attempts to ask. Oh. There are gods, but not the ones I thought there are. No gods. The story turns under me, the hooves of me leave on yellow sheets of rain over the awnings. I'm allowed nearer to foxes and to eggs of sparrows in the open. I map my finger to sheer vertical air to ask directions. In fire alone has no memory of this morning. My nerves stretch along highways to form a clock. Is there nothing outside me to remain still among the possibles? This may be prophetic, I'm not sure. A single light, death it could be, asked, innumerable shadows inside me. Whatever the opposite of lightning hangs unbearably above the barley field. And I was carrying my blood to a height above the city and dropping it, but nothing like a shout fell from me, a hole just then into shining. From everywhere, a well in air, from infant into infants the names give. At the transom, the women, the men, no season, only dahlias today, falling, one long day. The invisible city, a wind of causes, the flocks of me multiply in brambles, in pastures, the cars, into rye, the woodlight of tables, our silence surrounds us with surfaces. Outside myself, I remember a hill carrying water up, and all of us as bowls of water. He, she, carries up to Jasmine. I raise my fists, the bees like a mask. I'm shouting. But what I hear from the dead, I hear waves against the sun, roaring. Nothing is what I thought. Only outlines visible in gold thread, a chair, a bell, I think. With the tipping, coppers of leaves and green shade is swaying the lines in the face of what breaks in gravity, the small below a swing, or one cat, I think, long time in the window ago, squared where no wall is, the real. Door frames in wind, the blood's radiant green flower, and scarves tangling among all the blonde grasses. One chickadee gathered the day into smallness, the dunes and the dunes and the water. Hills farther out in waves, a distance to watch me in the intricate deliberations of selves. I know iron grasses the flocks of geese, arrows, returning to surfaces of what I am, lying into the ground and up through plains of sky, its people in lines through the air is a miracle. Inside me, the canyons, intimate if ravines, a current of bare and one long branch and one red branch. I touch my water, the ripple, the root of it here is thought, is memory, gathers in wood grain, the seasons to come. I watch myself, inside myself, inside myself. To plant the eyes inside my eyes. In the dark, a dark I bear, my ladder of one rung, the quiet within a hammer. The white sleeve of a window is mine, an inch of air, or children on the bus, to listen inside them, each heart like a cardinal in its thicket. What is it to live is to want to live. A pearl translucent what? The rivers are burning, air in columns is everywhere burning, the fields of flocks, in spaces of office and morgue snow, what lights the rooftops, I'm looking, but there is no me to do the looking. Between branches, between bars and prisons, I was framed by doors. The dark of the body was nowhere, and the whole sea. Or a wide rain fell over cornfields and over roads, over the blue disk of the mountain. The wind, the east wind, tuned the rain was all teeth, my few teeth only, repeating the days I lived my task to gather them. Some days in the halls of hospitals, the courtrooms, the places of dying, I only hear language in shells of insects, water in water, the mouths open to need, the words clear in jades and whites, from the eyes, I think, nets and sway above the Capitol come the words. Or they are rushing away, crossing bogs, under doors, somewhere far from themselves, into moths, if pollen, a weather carries above tobacco fields. They suspect none of this is human, the bricks, the moon, their fingernails and blood, an empty, no mother, behind curtains of water. Abyss in the shape of a maple leaf to be in two eras at once, scaffolding under the hill, the other, sun, a river, boat and its story. Painless I abide, traceries of bees slide over to say soul. Soul, the world is, this all we are, a soul field in sound, we adrift in sleeves. I could almost sleep it. A series of blue doors. The days come floating away from me. Inside stone, a wind. My daughter, horizons in the wood, her bouquet in ruins at both ends of the road where nothing needs saving. Or someone's shadow working like a hammer, shadow of a thought working high above the water wheel. Delicate the boy swaddles a babe across the minefield. Innocent the gravity in ropes singing down the whole earth like a mirror for something. Where helicopter blades flower, 3 in the low sun. At bottom of the street like a well into deeps. The street, into deeps the street, where looking time trebles in the smoke of cedar groves. The dogs drift into us, a shout, the cold. Into us a little while, light lets, nothing is sovereign, a page, a box brimming, all delicate in the body, held in the coarse rope netting of the body. Time keeps branching. What does it want in us? Each carries her death like a vase of deaths. Was I married in the soft sleep of marrow? I can't explain. Children see me. Inside them, I watch language move the year. They don't know it's over for a while. In museums, in circles, the public fountains, they follow someone. A few steps, is he mine? Am I that? Until no one, it's quiet. They float up to hang their feet in magnolias, all ripple and thinly, until they are many feet in many trees. The slowing of light is a new kind of everywhere body. Death, I think, if there is such a place in beauty, landscape without the landscape in it, and nothing outside me, thin, colorless sky among the olive groves, and in the long windows of children's mouths, my life without me in it, at the center of no center, is a flower. At the wedding of the air, the man exhaled. I gazed him close up, the skull of him glowing like a window. What passed between us had many blue threads. The children, all of mirrors, the planet turned away over sand, and testing bombs, I let myself want something. My life stared where it wasn't. This smoke, which is the fine smolder of thought, shines clean, shines dirty, no matter, onto the road. The road carries leaves away to where, swiftly, we may not follow. We leave our arms on shelves, or the small child of us. I try the clocks to zero, no matter, watching gamblers, the dice of them, each outcome true to love. The wars, they kill each other. They put antlers on fences. Don't eat my shadow, not one bite. They put fires on ledges. This is my shadow. 300 eggs the sun lay. My voice moves beyond me across the water, has lost its way. I am bound to watch murder in the old country. A girl sold for her heart, its million red bells. Help me. On a pillow, yes, I would place the voice. I would wear the lungs. To which orders of musics have I belonged? To ships, to valleys. The thought of me dilates an iris, yes, in ripples of mustard field and trash heap lets crows by crow light into milk. Which language is this shaping the coffins? A white heat adumbrates the sycamores, the houses I think inside, the wake where I'm not alone in faith, if there is anything. Only time which has been blowing over the red hills, red over the bronze hills, the windows of thin ivory, the fires gone out, the cities piled with antlers, the orchards subtracting apples and waves under bridges as monuments of granite one may walk across. The delicate hinge of no fulcrum is what it meant. Or someone's hip bone wears the whole night this tender sequence above the market, holding very and very still to keep to a glass chair in the river. I imagine a temple surrounded by itself is another word for wind. Almost finished. I was quickling through archways, over grain floors and water. The arches were only my body. The wet steps of libraries, room after room, the fountains, a page of air I was, looking for an end in the book of everything, in shafts, the miners, in salt marshes, a turtle's wet roof, in reeds and mud, and watching thistle release its down, where hold and release were one word in the small. I was futuring the thistle to 12 distances of God. What is this between us? A world. A man there is follows me through woods. Every age but this is no woods. Ahead on the road, the hands flutter. Windows, whole rooms of his body. In doorways, his voice. In the crossing, who my son? In cedars, is he me? From the bell note, this thunder, underground, understands us. To occupy the turnings of sky over the river. No difference between seeing and hearing. Return to the realm of zero, begging upward into stairs. The hands follow me into the sun. What am I that shakes? The mountain's high tree is generating distance, sending it out in waves against the air. What happened between us? I remember the future. A white branch of water split into gathering into its tree. One drop of blood at the mouth of the delta. This altar waiting for me. A weather in my footsteps. In all directions, surrounding, then fleeing to carry it. A boy was measuring the day. He had a big hoop. The sun emptied its arrows into him. He thought the hoop invisible. I wanted to tell him, but I was inside those arrows. Oh, thank me. And final, not much of me left. And this must be what love feels like. The spreading out over surfaces of leaves as they flicker out. The children, they are all children now. Their hands on the drums, the borders, and bread. Bread is and is. Bread is and is this the gift. Sorry, I had to do it all at once.